It's my pleasure now to introduce Luiz Kiadtikhunphaibun, who is the first Secretary General for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the Karenni National Progressive Party, KNPP. So he is indeed the first Secretary General for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs at the Karenni National Progressive Party. The party was founded in 1957 to fight for the independence of the Karenni state, which is also known as Kajah, Eastern Myanmar. It is home to the eponymous ethnic group and has an armed wing, the Karenni Army. Like many other ethnic armed organizations and political parties, they switched their demand for independence in the 70s and now demand an autonomous state within the federal system. So let me now turn to Mr. Luiz. So please give us your statement and then we will have, as normal, questions and answers. Welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm very pleased to meet all of you, the ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm going to present about the crisis, humanitarian crisis that happened after the coup in Myanmar. As you already know and heard about the situation that happened after the coup that presented by Mr. Tandumu, we have the same face the same situation. But in current state, I would like to highlight that the first thing that I would like to highlight that the population of a current state. The current state is a very small state, the smallest state in Burma, and a smaller population as well. But we estimate that 220,000 of the population have to flee from their home and hiding in the jungle to seek for a safe place. But there is no safe place anymore because we can see that after the coup, KNPP and also other elderly people from the community and the respected people, leaders, try to maintain the peaceful demonstration, but later on the SAC, they start violently and create a human violation to the young people and also to the civilians. And start from that, the fighting between the local fighter and also the SACR began. And after that, they put much pressure on the civilians. They targeted civilians. At first, they targeted the people who fight against them, especially young people. And then they arrested a lot of young people at the beginning. But later on, not only young people, but women and children and also elderly people as well. By looking to this, we can say that human rights violations are starting at the beginning, start from the coup. So since we can see that more than half of the population are flee. At the 2000, the late 2011, 2021, for the crop and other food item, the civilian can store in the jungle and then they can save some place. But now in 2022, saying there is no international support and also there is no other import opportunity to the states. So people are facing a lot of problem in the humanitarian assistance. And for KNPP and also other local TSO, we try to find a way how to make it available to access to the humanitarian need for the people. But that is a very difficult, as you may already heard in the news, on the Christmas Eve, 2021, there's more than 38 people massacred. And this is not a simple one. This is a a human rights violation and also a genocide to the people. They are civilians. They're not holding the gun and fight against them. This is what I would like to highlight. Why they have been massacred? Because those IDP people, they go for Christmas Eve. At the same time, they go back to their old village and then try to get the food from their village and go to the IDP camp again. So this is on the way, in the middle of the way, that they be killed. So this is we cannot tolerate for that. So we would like to move forward, and we would like the international community and also the and also in the region as well to hear about this and to bring this is in us a serious case and how we can find a way to handle this and to be able to give a punishment to those are committing crime. This is a crime against humanity, as everyone know about this. And the third that I would like to update is the current situation after the coup and until August. In the current states, there are 260 people have been killed. This is the civilians be killed by the SAC, and 330 are arrested by the SAC, and also the building, the community building, like a school, clinic, and other public use. There are 715 are destroyed and also damaged. That's damaged by SAC, mean they are burning down or they shell in the big missile, and also they use a big launchers, and then they targeted to the village, the civilian village and IDP camp. This is that I would like to highlight when this is the destroyed house. And also civilians are injured. More than 200 people are injured because in the Dimoso area, I can say that that is a flat area and there's a paddy field, but now it's become a killing field for the people because the SAC use airstrike, and then they bomb the IDP camp as well as to the Demoso area. And not only that, they shell like a big missile motor to the area, and also they plant a landmine. It's become a landmine field. So civilian who plan to come and cultivate in the paddy field, they step on the landmine. So this is a very dangerous for the human protections. So this is not secure for the people. And not only that, other issue is related to the religious freedom. They burned down Christian church and also other religious building. There are 23 buildings that burned out, and also they shell a big launcher to the building because they thought that IDP people are hiding in that public building or church. This is one thing. And also for the personal household, they burned down more than 1,100 house of the civilians. They burned down the house. And the last point that I would like to highlight is in this fight between the SAC are not KNPP, not EEO or ERO, the EEO that fight against SAC. This is the civilians fight against the SAC. But this is a civil war as well. But I would like to highlight is that why they use an airstrike and bomb to the people. So in Korean state, there are 160 times they use airstrike and then they bomb to the IDP camp. They are targeting civilians. So in our core or in our situation, I would like to say that to provide humanitarian assistance to those are in need is the fundamental needs that are required from the people to keep the civilian survives and able to achieve to see one day there will be a federal democracy. Because human life is very important, as everyone knows. That's why we would like to make it possible and find alternative way how the region and international community are able to participate and share the assistance to the people who are in need. But in this situation, in ethnic area, we do have a community-based organization or a civil society organization that operated in our area, not only in Korean state but in other ethnic state as well. They operate in the ground and they have experience. But the only thing is that, for example, in Thailand, if we say about cross-border, they are not officially registered under the Thai law. This is the only thing. But the activity and the operation that they have experienced is decade already. So it's a trusted community organizations. So for the international community and international donor, I would like to call that they are the right one who you should think, or your country should think or plan to work with them for the need of the people, for the humanitarians to handle the humanitarian crisis. In this case, some country and some organization might think, even though SAC are not legitimate governance of Myanmar, but some we do know. I think some of us we know that we cannot exclude them as a G2G. But in this case, G2G is not work anymore with SAC. So we can say that now, if any country that would like to work as G2G, and then now the civilians representative governments, or we can say that NUG is there, and also ERO, all the ethnic armed group. We say ethnic armed group, but or most of the ethnic armed group, we have our own administration, governance system, and we govern the states, and we have a capable of how to administrate the country and also the states. If we come together as a federal democratic state, not SAC, so that we cannot legitimize any activity by conducting activity through SAC. This is the point that I would like to say. And the last point that I would like to say is that when we call for the assistance to provide assistance to the accessible organization, or we call it cross-border activity or cross-border humanitarian assistance, sometimes it's very difficult for some of our EO that we have a connection or boundary with the country, for example, like India or China, or even Thailand. We don't have any official channel that we were able to provide assistance from Thailand side to Myanmar sides. This is a very difficult. So I do hope that in this in this platform, I believe that ICR and also other international community can also not put a pressure, but can request Thailand to give her some opportunity to save the life of the civilian in Myanmar. So this is the last point that I would like to say. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Luiz. I take, of course, full note of this absolute urgency to find solutions to the humanitarian crisis. And thanks for describing all these atrocities that are targeted by the army and SAC towards civilians seeking help and food and shelter. So I think you have also, in a very interesting way, explained how ethnic organizations have governance capacity, which certainly the country will need in the future. So I would like to open the floor to questions, and I see that my colleague, Mr. Kwankwa, is there to ask his question.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you very much to Mr. Luiz. Now the question is, when he was making his submissions, he stressed the fact, I think, which is also contained elsewhere, that the regime is committing war crimes and crimes against humanity, and likely crimes against humanity. What is the possibility then of us mounting a global campaign similar to what we did in South Africa during the apartheid regime, because it was stakeholders from within the country that started the campaign to say, look, the apartheid government was committing crimes against humanity until such time that we were able to get that declaration from the UN. By doing so, we had to lobby the international community and various stakeholders, but also keep the spotlight on all the human rights violations that were taking place in South Africa, where there was just murdering of people, the torturing and the extermination of people, which was taking place inside the country. Perhaps we might have to consider how we can mount such a campaign. Who would we have to then lobby in trying to get or put that campaign, set it in motion? The second aspect of it has to do with the fact that I think that what would also be important perhaps is to see how we can also get other interest groups to help in trying to highlight some of the violations that are taking place in Myanmar. For instance, you spoke about FOB violations, and as my colleagues know, that there are many interest groups, NGOs, and other human rights organizations that focus specifically on FOB. And if we're able to devise a strategy where we can get the different interest groups that try to advocate for certain human rights, to bring the spotlight on some of the violations, I think that would make life easier for us. Perhaps it's one of the things that you might have to consider. I know it's not a clear-cut question. It's perhaps more of a suggestion than a question, but I would like to hear your inputs on that. Thank you very much.
A very interesting question indeed. Mr. Luiz, perhaps you try to give an answer.
Yes, right now, the Muscat issue, the humanitarian, human rights violation at the Benin state, we do have documented about it. And then we also have a connection with some international organization that will help bring the case to the international community. I mean, especially to ICJ or to other platform. To this, and also here we have, for example, like the Christmas Eve events, the Muscat, we have the family member that they really want to see some action for this, because they lost their family and also they lost their relative as well. And not only that, in other cases, some people, they lost their family and they are the only one who left in the community. So in these things, we have documented, and then we will sure continue to make a connection to the international organizations, and then we'll be able to find what will be certified for those are really, how to call it, face the problem.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Charles Santiago, our colleague from Malaysia, to take the floor.
Thanks, Heidi. And thanks for that interesting presentation by Luiz. I have a simple question, but a difficult answer, I would imagine. ASEAN's frustration with Min Aung Hlaing and the military of Myanmar is all-time high. Even the Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen himself has vented his frustration against Min Aung Hlaing. What should ASEAN do in November to get Myanmar to the negotiating table? Or is it better if ASEAN cuts off Myanmar from ASEAN itself? What would you suggest?
Mr. Luiz, please, the floor is yours.
Yes, it is a very difficult question, but from my perspective, if we cut out Myanmar from the ASEAN, it means that it can be consequent for the long terms. We need to include Myanmar in the ASEAN, but not with SAC. Like right now, ASEAN need to consider to have other approach with the civilians governments and also the EAO. They are really operating in the ground and stand with the civilians and the people of Myanmar, because the SAC are not stand with the people of Myanmar. They only stand with their own business, and also with we only to protect their business and also their regime and their powers, not the people power. So now for ICR, we need to include Myanmar, but approaches with the civilian governments and also the EAO who are really stand with the civilians. Thank you.
I'm sorry, who is that? Is that the European Union you're referring to, or who are you talking about? The EU, you mentioned EU. Who is that?
EAO is the ethnic armed group.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
EAO. Okay.
Yeah.
But just to follow up, Heidi, the question that was posed earlier.
Sure.
Should ASEAN say now that we are quite tired of Min Aung Hlaing, and from now on we will only recognize NUG and NUCC?
Mr. Luiz, what do you think?
I think if ASEAN only recognize NUG and NUCC, because some other ethnic group are not ready to be in the NUG yet. So ASEAN need to recognize NUG as well as the ethnic group, so that in the rebuild of the country, there will be a possible way that will be for the civilians.
If I may interfere with this very interesting question. So perhaps there is, let's say, the strategy could be that along the lines that we have heard from the first witness of this panel, that there should be a sort of coming together of all the relevant democratic forces, including the ethnic armed organizations and the ethnic parties and the NUG, NUCC. But I see it a little bit, well, ASEAN is an interstate, it's an organization, intergovernmental organizations with certainly, I mean, a parliamentary dimension for sure. But it's perhaps a little bit difficult to think of inviting the ethnic armed organizations to ASEAN, but could there be sort of two parallel processes? We have heard from some witnesses in these hearings that there should be a multi-track approach to come to a new democratic Myanmar. So could you perhaps elaborate a little bit what for you the strategy, including the role of ASEAN, could be?
Yes, in this approach, if we look at only one approach, then we cannot solve the solution of the crisis in Myanmar. And if ASEAN just leave Myanmar in ASEAN, then the continuation of the crisis will be affected to all ASEAN countries. Because now, if any country that legitimizes regime, then the regime who are killing their own people, and then the people have to flee from the country, legally or illegally, and then it will be affected to the ASEAN economic as well. So in this approach, not only NUG and EAO or ethnic group have to be in an ASEAN platform, but there might be a different sector, that different approach that can be bring to ASEAN.
Thank you. Do I see any other? Yes, I give Mr. Kwankwa, is that your old hand or is it the new hand? Do you want to take the floor?
It's a new hand, yes, Chair.
Okay, yes, yes, please. The floor is yours.
No, I wanted to piggyback on this very important question to say, yes, indeed, ASEAN is an intergovernmental organization. Certainly, it would be difficult to actually try and get other stakeholders to be involved in that. But have they considered the possibility of having, because we could have meetings, important meetings on the sidelines of the meetings of the ASEAN to try and bring these issues to the attention of the intergovernmental organization, but also be able to occupy the space from a media perspective to say, here are the real issues, put the alternative and put the narrative forward as a way of trying to find a solution to problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There's a fundamental question that I want to ask you, Mr. Luiz. Why has the Myanmar military attacked with so much ferocity Karenni state? What's so strategic of Karenni state and such an importance to the SAC and the Tatmadaw that these attacks have been so fierce?
Yes, from my perspective and from my knowledge, I believe that Karenni state, even though Karenni state is a very small state, but it's a very danger for Myanmar because Karenni state is very close to Naypyidaw. And if anything gets stronger in Karenni states, then they afraid that the Naypyidaw will be failed. This is what I analysis the situation, one. And the second one is the hydropower is in Loiko, so that they have to put a pressure on the civilians or attack to the people that they cannot destroy the hydropower that give the power to Naypyidaw, so that the people in Naypyidaw, especially SAC people, they can run their factory and they can run their business in Naypyidaw. So this is a second thing. And the third thing that I see the situation why they use airstrike, because according to the history, we are never be a part of Burma or Burman states. According to the history, 1875, June 21st, we are the independent states. And then we until 1948, we call ourselves independent states. And also KNPP is the only organization that maintain independent states up to 2001. And then we changed the political concept that to call ourselves as independent, we cannot stand alone. We have to stand with our friends and neighbor, so that to build a country, to stay together, diversity inclusion is the best ways, so that we change from independent to federal. And then after 2001, KNPP really focused on the federal democracy principle. So when we are on that, the SAC or the mainline, they don't want to recognize this history. This is a fair history, and then they would like to make a fair state of Karenni, and also want to give other state example. Karenni is a small state, and KNPP are not signed the nationwide ceasefire agreements before the coup. We always stay with the bilateral agreements. This is the story, or this is the reasons that I see, and I can analyze the situation when they put so much pressure on Karenni states. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Looking at the map, indeed, I can see that the distance from the Karenni border to Naypyidaw is perhaps just, could it be 30, 40 kilometers? Something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, that's right.
Okay, thanks a lot. So I hope you can stay for the third speaker. Now we move to the third speaker of our hearing today.